Is it true that you were an intern at Rolling Stone at 12?
Yeah, I was because in the summers I interned there because I remember studying for my bar mitzvah during one of the summers that I was there because my bar mitzvah was in September. I was like one of those young kids in the class whose birthday's like after summer. And and I remember like my voice hadn't even broken. I was a really young 12. So as an intern at Rolling Stone at that time, they would just throw you whatever. Sometimes you were answering the switchboard, which was like a lot of fun because there were just all these like buttons everywhere. It looked like you were like the operator for all of Manhattan.
You know what's crazy is that there's probably a lot of people who listen who don't even know what that means.
What is switchboard?
It means you're picking up a phone, right? And you have to connect.
I wasn't connecting. I would dial it at extension. So there's a pad in front of me, like this giant thing with like hundreds of little buttons. And anyone trying to call Rolling Stone and speak to somebody at extension 102, I would answer and be like, "Hello, Rolling Stone," And then they would be like, "Hi, can I speak to Jancy Dunn?" And I'd be like, "Jancy Dunn, like and then hit 103 and buzz it through. And I love doing. Because that was like the equivalent of, I guess, if like kids have like iPhones now, like iPads. Like for me, that was like a fun thing. That was tacky. Sometimes I would just I would call all the mom and pop record stores because Rolling Stone had their own top 10 chart in the back of the magazine that was a bit random. It wasn't a Billboard chart. It was just them calling 100 mom and pop stores and averaging the chart from each of those stores.
In a given locality or just like across
I think it was just a weird across the thing. It was like a Gallup poll. You know, like those polls where you're like, what is, how do they do that?
And can I ask what year is this?
This is 12. So this is before I was 13. This is 88.
Wow, this is like a good time for that.
Mark, were there other 12-year-olds at Rolling Stone, or was it just you?
I was the youngest intern ever because Jan Wenner, who started the magazine, was a good friend of my parents. My stepdad was a musician, and every time he'd come over, I was like a very, very nerdy, obsessive music trivia nut, and I would read Rolling Stone back to front. I knew album liner notes, and I would grill Jan to death, probably to the point of almost being annoying. To one time he was like, "What do you want?" I was like, "Can I intern?"
Wow.
So he let me intern. I was the youngest intern. I think most of the kids were sort of like college age. And then one of the times that I really remember was the Batman soundtrack was number one that week. It was the Prince soundtrack with Bat Dance and I had figured out that was the number one thing, and I had to then go downstairs to the art department and tell them so they could put the little, thing of the Batman album cover visual at the top of the chart because everything was so old school, the layout and the blues prints and stuff.
Wow, man.
So I went down, I was like, who do I ask for? And they're like, well, you ask for Sheila, whatever. She's the head of the art department. Just tell her the number one album is Prince Batman. So I just go down and I'm like looking, I'm like, do you know where Sheila Johnson is? And they're like, no. And, she's right in there. So I go and I'm like, hi. And she's like, can I help you? Like she had never seen me before. I was tough. I just go, Batman's number one. And she's just like, is this a prank? I just seem like a kid who was just super into DC Comics.
Just telling her a fact.
Apropos of nothing, just a 12-year-old approaches
Batman
you.
underwear. Like you're just...
And she's like, can I, excuse me?
Wow, I love that. I'm realizing as you tell this story, you have the life and career of a person much older than you, living it like I feel like you're an old-timey director being like, like you clearly have lived this life and you're not old enough to seem that way, you know what I mean? Like
it's weird because I didn't really have any real success in music till like my early 30s, so I had sort of a late start, but I'd done a lot of shit before that.